Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Without Context podcast, where the cream always rises to the top. Oh
Cream always
yeah,
rises to the top. Oh yeah.
He just
yeah.
always right. It's like his Macho
He
Man's like
like
hand.
sleight of hand. He
This
like
is the
sleight of hands the little coffee creamer. That's like my favorite promo growing up.
Just the
like seriously. I'm just still trying to figure out exactly how he did that on national
Doesn't the
television.
wrist tape?
It's just like he just does it and it's just flawless. I love it.
yeah.
Does it like
So
3 times on Mean Gene's head too. It was
yeah.
great.
So
This is the cream.
let's
This
just
is the top.
before we continue
Rise.
talking about Macho Man, let's just this is my friend X. He's gonna be our guest with us today. I've known X for
Hello, everybody.
probably the better part of a decade now, and a really cool
Mhm.
guy. One of my big wrestling friends that I have, and Haley is out for assuming the next 2 weeks getting married, so we were going to have X on
Woo!
today and another guest on next
Congratulations!
week.
Congratulations!
I'm sure she'll appreciate that, and
Mhm.
just kind of do the guest episodes like we did last time. But with X on the show today, we're going to actually have a wrestling episode instead of the explaining wrestling episode that we had with Haley a few weeks back.
I will say, explaining wrestling was extremely fun, but
It
now we
was
get to
fun,
talk
but now we actually get to
the
talk
smart marks
about
that we are.
yeah, we get to talk about wrestling. How we got into it, what we love about it, thoughts on the current environment, current stars,
Oh
stuff like
boy.
that.
Oh
So
boy.
Oh boy.
and it is probably going to be probably a little less than an hour long compared to our usual episodes. We do have stuff to do after the recording today, so hopefully it could just be a nice hour long conversation about wrestling. So
Yeah.
always fun to talk about things that we all can relate with. Usually it's like, hey, a few of us know something and the rest of us are like getting the like feedback about it, but now it's like, oh, we all have something to contribute today.
Right.
So
I do really like those episodes where I can feel everyone else's passions about it. So it
Yeah.
inspires me to like learn about it. And then like the anime episode where you guys all recommended me animes. I think one of you recommended Love is War, and I watched it, and I'll talk about it later when we have another chance to like talk about the animes that you guys recommended me.
I think
But we'll
your one
get into that
comment
at another time.
I think your one comment about it was, I don't want to watch an anime where I just see two people constantly edging each other. It's like, I think that was
That's
like one
the
of your
plot.
I think that was one of your comments about it. But let's start
Get
with
into that
X. Just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, how you got into this hobby of ours that we call wrestling.
Well, I've been a wrestling fan for almost 35 years, so I'm kind of telling my age here. I started with the rock and wrestling era back when Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Randy Savage, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, all those guys were pretty much prominent. Um, obviously,
Pure 80s like wrestling.
pure 80s pro wrestling.
Rock and wrestling.
Yeah. Also, on the NWA, WCW side of it, where it was Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Nikita Koloff, and all those guys. And
Surfer Sting before he changed over to
Surfer
the
Sting with the Surfer Sting with the Bart Simpson haircut, because he had that
The shock
and then
the
in
shock
ponytail.
master.
The shock mask. Oh God,
best debut
Ooh.
ever.
Best debut ever. That's still a classic moment. Like I said, but yeah, I've been doing this for 35 years. I got into it because my brother, he was a pro wrestling fan, and I would just watch it with him every day. We would just like do moves and stuff in our bedroom, and piss our parents off, and that's what we did. But yeah, I enjoy pro wrestling. I love it still to this day. I love every aspect of pro wrestling, from storytelling to how they do things, entrance music, all that stuff. I love pro wrestling. Yeah,
The whole theatrics about it.
the whole theatrics of the deal, the pyro
Yeah.
and everything included. I mean, I'm just
Hell
a
yeah.
huge pro wrestling fan.
I think we've called it on the previous episode, Deca. We called it a jock theater. Is what we
Mhm.
called is what
Jock
pro wrestling
theater's
can
very
be.
appropriate.
Jock ballet. You know what I'm
It's
saying?
like
Jock ballet.
yeah,
Showcases.
a jock ballet, jock theater. I think is the best way to describe pro wrestling. It's theater, but it's as if the football players went and did theater.
It's like the Young and the Restless, but with steel chairs and tables. That's really
Yeah.
what it is. That's
It
probably
is.
the best way to describe, to a non-pro wrestling fan, what pro wrestling is. It's basically an episode of the Young and the Restless, but they fight and hit each other with steel chairs, tables, and whatever else is on the ring that's planted, ladders included.
it's interesting that so like Jim Ross in like the Attitude Era where most of my expertise comes from, he used to say something to the effect of like, well, it's not ballet that they do out there, when it in reality it actually is like very close to ballet in how they have to hit their steps, how they have, very injury prone, and if you're injured, you're out for a long period of time. It's actually more similar than, but it's just one of those things where it's like ballet is like the feminized thing, and we're not for the women's, even though we're all oiled up and chiseled and good looking.
And
think-
like half naked half the time, so
Yeah.
I think people don't consider that a lot in wrestling. I don't think they consider it's like how much of like a choreographed thing that it is most of the time. Like a lot of times, a lot of wrestlers are experienced enough to just kind of go with the flow and read the room and, kind of build up moments and, all the other stuff. But a lot of it is like, all right, we're going to do, here's the big spot we're going to need to hit. Here's the next big spot we're going to need to hit. And I mean, the refs in there subtly telling them time. It's like, hey, you guys are at, 10 minutes. Like they're keeping it all on go. They're keeping it going. So there's a lot actually going into
everything in pro wrestling is really managed. Like even and I found this out, maybe a few years ago. Even how they run the ropes, okay, is managed. Because there's a certain number of steps they have to take before they turn around and just bounce off the rope. And the way they memorize things and put it together in the ring. I'm just amazed at it because I probably couldn't even do that for 2 minutes. Okay, with the way my mind wanders at times. So yeah,
I've definitely noticed how they almost like 1-2 step before they hit the ropes.
Yeah.
No matter how close they are to the ropes.
It's like step,
like 1-2 step.
turn.
Yeah.
I think that's why we've seen like such success on a lot of wrestlers leaving the industry to go on to Hollywood, is because a lot of their wrestling career
Rock
is acting. Like it's a more physical acting. And I think that's like probably one of my favorite things. I mean, that's the thing, is like in the 80s, because there was no widespread communication, they were really good about this is real, these guys hate each other, this is a real fight kind of thing.
People got stabbed.
In the 90s, when it all kind of blew up in everybody's face with the whole steroid scandal with the WWF, before it became WWE, because they lost to the Pandas. And it was like they had to come out and say, you know what, this is all booked, this is all planned. These guys are co-workers, they don't hate each other. And I mean, you still have a lot of these older guys still trying to keep that sense of kayfabe going. But nowadays, like, people know. So it's like, just enjoy it for the spectacle that it is now.
Just enjoy it for what it is. Yeah. Because I think a lot of that has to do with social media these days, nowadays. Because like a lot of it is, I would say, and this is like within the last 10 or 11 years, because I think before, 2000, I think before 2010, pro wrestling wasn't as prominent on social media as it is now,
No.
And back then, you can get away with a lot of things. Like the prime example of what you were talking about earlier was, I think what was it? It was Rick Rude and Roddy Piper. They had this they had a feud going on. This is like in the late 80s. And they projected across the screen. They projected
the OJ chase.
Yeah.
They projected the OJ Bronco chase as like a segment on the Roddy Piper like coming to the arena.
Yeah.
Like,
and then on top, yeah, I remember that part. That was the one with Goldust, but the one with Rick Rude was it was like a Sunday night episode of WWF where they just went back and forth for 2 hours, just arguing with each other. And how Rick Rude just said at one point, "I'll come into your house. I'll get your wife to make me a steak. I'll put my feet on your couch." And you just got the impression that these two really hated each other in real life, but we couldn't tell back then. But you see, now social media has just kind of like ruined the whole mystique of pro wrestling, because now that these are characters and these two really like each other in real life, but they hate each other on television. And it's just it's there.
So you say that, but I'm gonna like challenge that thought that it has ruined the mystique, because you got motherfuckers like MJF who just like
he lives his role.
Yeah, there are exceptions. Yeah,
he had his parents at the show saying we hate him too. like with the sign.
I saw that interview, that Fight TV interview.
I'm like, he's probably a really good guy, but I think any time he's in a public light, he has to be who his character is. I think
he's working the gimmick, brother.
He wants to embrace that old school style of this is who I am.
Yeah, and keep in mind that there are exceptions just like him who tried to keep that going. Okay, because even when he's making like appearances,
30 some odd years.
Yeah, because like he just keeps it up, and you just can't tell if he's actually a dick or not. So he keeps that up so well in public, and I commend him for that.
And but yeah, I think recent years Undertaker has like finally loosened up and has been talking about more behind the scenes stuff. I mean, he lived that kayfabe role of his from, you know, day one at SummerSlam to when he retired. And now he's like finally talking about like behind the scenes stuff.
From 1992 to 2022. Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost exactly 30 years.
30 years.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I think he wrestled for a long time, but you think like Dustin Rhodes, I think, is like the first wrestler to be wrestling in like 4 different decades.
Yeah.
Like just from, and like the guy looks like he's never lost like a step. It's absurd.
I mean, I'm amazed he can keep that up for that long, because I remember I remember Dustin Rhodes, when Dustin Rhodes, when he debuted, I was a kid, all right, and I was like, what, like the early 90s? He debuted in WCW, and he debuted in
WCW. He was wrestling in the NWA.
NWA, that's what it was.
I think at like 17 or 18. Yeah, like, as early as he could, he was like tag teamed with his dad and everything. And if you want to talk about like longevity, like he's been everywhere. He was in, you know, NWA. He was in WCW, WWF/E. He went to Impact for a period of time, even though it wasn't a great run. And then he started hitting, you know, the indie scenes and all that. Now he's back in AEW. Like, this man has experienced every twist and turn of wrestling over the last like 40 years.
Oh man, he's done it all, man. Like I said, he's a talented individual as well. And on top of that, he's been offering advice to a lot of people backstage. So I know there's like a couple people in pro wrestling right now who I think are a wealth of knowledge. One of them is Dustin Rhodes, and the other one is William Regal. And I'm pretty sure if you ask either one of them about what to do in the ring and how to build character and stuff, they could probably, you know, tell you that off the top of their heads.
Yeah.
I didn't like Wheeler Yuta all that much. I thought it was like whatever. Now he's associated with like Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley and William Regal, who, like you said, all 3 of them know how to play a character. Now I'm like, oh, this guy's pretty good.
And something that's been coming out is Moxley and Bryan have been helping him, like, you know, get better at promos and stuff like that too, because I think that's something that a lot of current wrestlers lack to a degree, like unless you're just naturally talented at it. Back in the 80s and 90s, you know, you had to know how to wrestle, you had to know how to talk. If you didn't know how to talk, they gave you a manager to be your mouthpiece if they wanted to push you. But like nowadays, a lot of it is because of all the indie scenes and, you know, not a lot of, you know, eyes on it. A lot of times it's just performing and it's just wrestling. And you get people like
moves.
You get people like Ricochet, who is great in the ring, but like from what he's had to do in like promo work, it's been a little lacking at times, because I don't think he's actually taken the time to talk to people to improve on that side of what wrestling is. Also, people think it's just what can you do in the ring. It's, you know, you have to know how to talk, you have to know how to, you know, present your character also.
Yeah, but keep in mind, a lot of those guys, when they come off the indies, you know, they aren't used to doing that stuff. Okay, they just go on there and they put on matches. You know, they cut very little promos. Like once you get to, you know, major leagues in WWE and AEW, you know, you are on camera almost every other week, and I guess you have to start presenting a character. And for the most part, those guys just they're doing something that they're not used to, but they're learning along the way. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And what were you saying, Deca?
I was gonna say, like, and you remember, like, just like maybe the year before Ricochet got hired, he had that really good match in Japan with what's his name? With Ospreay. And then they did it like 3 different times in the exact same spot, like 4 different times in their matches, just because it's a hype ass spot.
Yeah.
And and like he goes from that and the huge pop that he gets, but now he has to work on doing that every single solitary day. He doesn't get several months off. He has to every day be working, like at least some time working on his character. Like, what will my character do in this case? What will my character do in that case? And so on and so forth. And it's a whole different beast from being able to do the most hype spot, the most talked about spot in like 2018 or whatever it was, to being being a performer.
I think what that comes with is the fact that with bigger promotions, Impact, AEW, WWE, you're not on TV every week. So trying to get a character across is increasingly difficult, especially if they don't let you make vignettes or anything like the old WCW used to do for a lot of people. Like they'd have a lot of pre-recorded promos that played between wrestling. It wasn't just always in the ring kind of commentary.
A little picture in the 80s.
But you see these people that are like, it's just a wrestler. Like that's all they are. They're just a wrestler. Somebody like Stu Grayson, who was just let go from AEW, despite being one of the core like Dark Order figures, because at the end of the day, compared to the rest of the Dark Order, he's just a guy. Like Alex Reynolds, John Silver, they got over as a tag team, and they're hilariously comedic in their segments with like Anna Jay and all that. Evil Uno being kind of like the defuncto leader right now, has a character like coming out in that aspect, and then 10 and 5 are just over. Like 10 is the most over wrestler in that whole group.
I like that 10 took what's his name's old gimmick of like the 10 thing and has actually gotten over with it.
Sean Spears.
All that compared, like Stu Grayson just didn't have anything that stuck him out compared to the rest of them.
He just kind of faded into the background somewhat.
And they couldn't negotiate a new contract, so he got, let go. Which is
unfortunately, it's unfortunate.
It's
but he just
one of those. It's one of those things that also kind of rubs me the wrong way. A lot of the people that have been released from AEW at the end of their contracts are a lot of the founding figures. Like they're the first generation of AEW wrestlers, but because either they're not over or they haven't like done much, or there's just no like creative behind them right now. You got people like Jack Evans, Marco Stunt. They just got released because it's like, hey, we got nothing for you here. Then you got somebody who like Joey Janela, who was there from the beginning and has built up a reputation of being unsafe. So it's like people are always going to treat him like he's an unsafe wrestler. So at the end of the day, he's like, hey, I've negotiated, I'm walking out from here. I'm going to go back to doing the indie stuff, just put these guys in better hands kind of thing.
There was rumors of him being unsafe because he is unsafe. Like, there's a difference between people being like, oh, that guy's unsafe, but no one has proof. We watched him on television. The man's unsafe.
Like he legit injured people on television. So I get where that reputation comes from. That's why.
Yeah, a lot of like that first generation of like AEW wrestlers, I feel like they could be doing more with a lot of them. But when you get a roster that's starting to get like this much star power put into it, it's getting increasingly more difficult to find space for them. Which is why I hope that the rumors are true, and when Omega comes back, they introduce the trios titles. So it's like, hey, let's establish more factions. Let's get some of our original guys on TV more, because I like Sonny Kiss. I like Sonny Kiss as a wrestler. I like them as a character, but they're just stuck on Dark. Like they have not gotten any real TV time. Like they had a very short feud with Janela before he left, but they just kind of been doing nothing, and the crowd loves them. Like the audience loves Sonny Kiss, but it's like, who do you throw Sonny Kiss against on TV that isn't going to be an unbelievable, matchup kind of thing?
Wait, I have a solution to this actually. Put them with the best friends. Solved.
Yeah, it's just it's like it's just like the best friends. It's like, hey, it's like, yeah, it's like, hey, you can come with us, come hang out with us, because I think they're losing. I think they're losing.
They just
Chris.
lost Wheeler Yuta.
They lost Wheeler Yuta, and I think they're losing Chris Statlander to more of a heel turn, because like she's
Chris Statlander's kind of just doing her own thing.
Is it a heel turn or more of a darker character for?
It's more of a dark character. She's it's definitely like darker coloring. If it's more of not a full heel turn, it's definitely more of just like a tougher face now.
Edgier.
A much
Yeah.
tougher face.
But
I still think she should be the one to beat Jay for the TBS championship, but that's just an internal thought I have right at the moment.
it's just like, who are we getting? I think I don't know who's like next up. I think it's Serena Deeb is the next one going for Thunder Rosa's title, which
I think
to me
so.
that's also, I think that's something that they're building to. But because I think in Twitter they're like hinting at it in their own tweets and stuff like that.
I think
Yeah.
Deeb's still going after Hikaru Shido right now.
That feud I think is ended. They've done their like 3 matches. I think Deeb came out on top.
Yeah,
Which
I
is
think
why-
that because the blow off match was that street fight that they had
okay.
a couple weeks ago on Dynamite.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Which I think Thunder Rosa's in an interesting spot right now because she is the first Hispanic women's champion in wrestling. In North America.
Wrestling's
A major
Wrestling's
promotion
been
in
in
North
some-
America.
wrestling's been some carny shit for like 80 years at this point. Like,
Yeah,
and they've never had a
and
Mexican American.
She's done what? Has she even done a title defense? Has she even been on TV since winning the title? Like,
Yeah, she was.
Yeah,
she
she's
had
been
a
on TV
match
couple
against.
times.
Yeah, she had a match against Nyla Rose for the AEW Women's World Title, and I think now Serena Deeb is like her second challenger. And on top of that, a quick note, it was Serena Deeb. If you remember last year, I believe it was 2020 or 2021. I can't remember, but Serena Deeb was the one who beat Thunder Rosa for the NWA Women's World Championship.
yeah, so there's a
That
history
episode
there.
on Dynamite. So there's a history right behind that.
But I think it's like, are you going to take the belt off of Thunder Rosa on the second defense after having kind of a lackluster like women's title reign? And if that's, and I'm wondering like if they don't take it off of her, does it reignite the Serena Shida feud with like Shida interfering to like stop Serena from winning it, which is probably the most logical booking decision, and that's something that I like compared to WWE. I can kind of predict the AEW booking because it makes sense. It's like Shida's not going to go down from a grudge match without just walking away. Like that's been established as kind of her character. She's not going to just back down from it. And if you're going to play on the history of Serena has beaten Thunder Rosa, then, it's like, oh, she might beat her, but, I feel like Shida's going to interfere, and that would be a logical, outcome unless they just let Rosa beat her clean, which is another option. But I don't think there's going to be a DQ finish to a title match. I don't think we've gotten a DQ finish to a title match in AEW so far, or at least the one that I can remember.
I don't think it might have been like the FTW championship, and who cares about that?
Yeah. But
before we get too far off of this train, since today's Wednesday, and AEW is going to be in like an hour and a half at this point, as of recording, yes. And AEW is going to be in about an hour and a half. I have the card pulled up if y'all want to let's talk about the matches that they're going to show tonight as of recording.
Yes, it's going to be a lot of Owen Hart tournament stuff going on, which I love.
There are 3 Owen Hart Foundation.
I'm going to put my prediction in right now. I think Dax is going to go. I think Dax is going to go over Adam Cole because you're having an Owen Hart match, and you have Adam Cole and Dax who are being compared as the Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart like comparisons, and you're not going to let the Shawn Michaels guy go over Bret Hart in his brother's tournament. But it's also, but the thing is, Adam Cole doesn't need the win. That's the thing. It's like he's so over. He doesn't need the win. But right now, FTR is on a fucking hot streak. They just had their 1v1 match. They just battled the Briscoes. It's just like FTR is just on a rocket.
Great.
Adam Cole came into AEW with a lot of momentum from NXT. Okay, he came in with the crowd. He came in with the charisma. He came in with everything. I don't think Adam Cole needs this win, honestly, because
Adam Cole is always going to be in, if not the top tier, he's going to be in the high mid card. He's always going to be
high mid tier.
He's going to be going between the two. If he's not in the title picture, he's going to be putting on banger mid card matches.
Yeah, and that's why I see Adam Cole right now, because, like I said, he is going to be just fine. Okay, I don't know
Yeah,
why
for sure.
everybody on the
He's just having
I don't
fun.
know why
That's the thing. Like,
everybody
he's getting paid. He's with his friends, and he's
He's with his
wrestling.
he's
wife.
good.
He's with his
He's
wife
good.
finally. Like, I don't think he cares about being constantly in the limelight. He's just having fun finally.
He shows up. He does Adam Cole, baby. He booms, and he's good.
And the
So
crowd
what's this
pops like
card?
crazy.
Yeah. So what's this card?
And-
All
for
right,
tonight?
so yeah, so there's that match. There is Darby Allin versus Jeff Hardy, which is
That's gonna
this is
be
one of those
somebody's gonna
matches
die.
where
Somebody's gonna die.
Yeah.
It's like-
Yeah. if this match was like if Jeff Hardy was like 20 years younger, I would be all for this match.
Yeah, I think this match risks an injury so badly.
I almost see that coming.
Lately, Jeff's swanton bombs have been off, and he's been landing like right on top of people instead of like hitting them with like the upper back and shoulders like he's supposed to. He's been like fully like landing on people.
He's been pancaking.
You
people.
land on Darby, who's half his size. Darby's gonna fucking die. So, but
yes, that match is where Dax versus Adam is probably going to be like a technical masterpiece because, like we said, this is the Shawn Michaels Bret Hart. This is like an ECW trash match.
Yeah, and the thing with like
no offense to ECW people from
the thing
the 90s or whatever.
The thing that people forget about Adam Cole most of the time because they think he's just like the Young Bucks and all that is Adam Cole can wrestle. Like the guy can put on a technical match. It's like you just have to give him the right opponent. You have to give him the right time. You can't be like,
did it all the time in NXT.
Yeah, but I think between this match, I think Darby's going to go over.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that just makes the most sense as far as the booking goes because it's the younger guy, and this is another one where Jeff Hardy does not need this win.
Jeff doesn't need really any more wins. All him and his brother have to do is get the AEW titles. They make the claim that they've won the division in every promotion, like every single promotion. And
plus, in AEW, they can actually afford to go to like Ring of Honor and like AAA and all these other places. And they're not stuck to just AEW. They can go other places when those titles come back. Look at us, we have belt armor.
And it's like, it's not even if they have a long title reign. If a new young tag team comes up, the Hardys put them over. They beat the Hardys. They beat one of those decorated tag teams in, wrestling history. So I don't think they're going to put Jeff into focus with like a singles run for like a singles title. I think he's going to stick to the tag team scene.
Yeah, he's just like a he's just like a
Darby going over.
To fill.
What is the actual bracket of this today?
What is the actual
Owen Hart bracket?
So on the bracket, the only one that I'm really looking at is a Samoa Joe match. They have a Joker in there, and that could be anybody.
It's people are predicting Cesaro because
I would love that.
People are predicting that he's going to come. Because he's also a Ring of Honor alumni.
Yeah.
So Joe, Ring of Honor champion, who's my opponent? Cesaro fucking walks in, unrestrained from creative. He just gets to put on a match, win or lose. Cesaro's he's there.
He gets to lift. He gets to be a strong man again and just fucking lift Samoa Joe like he's a baby.
Yeah.
Or it's either him or Johnny Gargano, which is another.
I would love Gargano.
Because like Gargano could just come in and work like a technical match with Samoa Joe, and Samoa Joe's really good at working with smaller guys, so
yeah,
he can just go in there, kill it with Gargano, and
the thing is,
I would like it to be Gargano, but I know he's gonna be I know he's trying to be a family man, so he'd maybe win the one match or lose here, but at most have like 2 matches in the tournament.
I think Cesaro's been more active on social media lately too. Like I think he's getting people talking about him again. Particularly for this tournament. The winner of Adam Cole and Dax faces the winner of Darby and Jeff. And I think they're probably going to either give us a Dax Darby match or a Cole Darby match. So that's me.
I'm fine with either one.
Yeah. So the other match on tonight's card is, as of recording, is the other qualifying match is Toni Storm versus Jamie Hayter. Now before we start simping, Sharky,
Whoever wins,
Darby.
whoever, even though somebody's going to lose, we're all going to win. Like
We're all winning.
there is so much cake
This
in that
is-
match. So,
A lot.
And the simping has begun.
hey, it's like, well, bring it up, man. I sim for Jamie and Tony. So,
But
Yes.
these are also two women who can absolutely put on bangers. So
Yeah.
that's gonna probably be the match of the night right there. My
Which
book.
is saying
And-
something, given some of the other stuff.
yeah.
DM, who do we think is going over in that one?
it's interesting because the bracket that match is going to face is Britt Baker versus the Joker, who I believe may be Athena, formerly Ember Moon. So
that would be a good one.
That's a good choice.
The thing is, I think it might be interesting because there's been a lot of hints lately that Jamie's getting tired of Britt to have the Jamie Britt semifinals match.
We'll be down with that.
Because then it leads into, Jamie or Britt versus anybody from Riho or Ruby or Red Velvet and Sheeta, which I'm kind of hoping we get a Ruby
Soho,
versus Sheeta
100%.
match. It's like, I really want to see Ruby Sheeta just fucking destroy each other. Because I know that they will. So
you mentioned the other people in that bracket. It's 100% Ruby Soho. Like, there's no way she doesn't get out of that bracket, out of that side of the bracket.
Yeah. And Red Velvet against Sheeta, Sheeta's going over.
Sheeta's going over, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's just, but lately also you've been seeing, Sheeta and Ruby like teaming up in some matches too. I think
that should be
I think it's like a few of their trios like tag teams. So there's building some history there. But
it's good.
I want to say Tony because it would be pointless to bring her in and then have her like instantly lose her first big like marquee match. But if they're going for a storyline, maybe you could also work with Tony winning and Jamie being pissed off and Britt saying like the wrong thing to her or something like that.
Yeah,
or, like, I can't believe you lost kind of thing,
They could also like go the other way with it and Britt being like, hey, I want to win this, so you're gonna take the fall here, so I don't have to face you. Or the other way around, where it's like, yeah, you win this match and just like, finger poke of doom, so I go over the next match.
Well, the other thing could be, Athena shows up, beats Britt. Jamie wins.
That would be huge.
Jamie wins. Britt's pissed off that Jamie's, getting this opportunity. Like, there's a lot of ways that you can organically build this breakup that
you could.
is being hinted at happening. But it's hard, man. I'm going to say, if I had to put money on something, I'll say Tony goes over because it makes sense to have her show up and not lose her first big match. So
the thing is, either way you cut this cake, it can both lead to the same outcome with Britt and Jamie. Okay, you can build the story either way with Tony winning and Jamie getting pissed off, or you can just have flat out Jamie winning and then her and Britt just have a face off or whatnot. Either way works.
I had to look at the time. I was like, okay, so May 11th. Dakota Kai was only recently released, so I'm like, it can't be Dakota.
Yeah, you got 30 more days.
So I'm thinking
let's see. Depending on how they stretch out, depending on how they stretch out the tournament, it could be Dakota Kai. If they stretch it out to be like if they stretch out the women's matches to be like, because I assume they're doing like at least one women's and men's match on Rampage, and then they do it again where it's 3 on the next Dynamite, and then another set of 2 on the next Rampage or however it goes.
Yeah, so looking at the qualifiers, it was March 30th, April 6th, and then 20th. So a week and then 2 weeks after. Mm-hmm. And then same thing, 1st, 8th, 15th, and then May 6th was the qualifiers. So they are spacing it out. The finals is going to be this month, the 29th, for Double or Nothing. So
okay, then probably not Dakota Kai then.
No.
Yeah, so you have there wasn't enough time for Dakota Kai, so I'm thinking the biggest name for it would be Athena. You could have anybody though from Ring of Honor, from Impact. That Joker could be Deonna Pizarro because they have a feud between her her and Britt Baker have always wanted that dream match. So
yeah,
it's just like, hey, boom, they've been talking.
I would say that would be weird for like a quarterfinals match. But it could be just like the taste test to be like,
oh yeah, because I mean,
if there's
anything Tony Khan has been consistent of, he's giving us the 3 bangers and then the feud ends. Like it's just like win, grudge match, move on to another feud. It's very classic booking style.
And also, ain't nothing wrong with it because it keeps working.
And also, it seems like pay-per-views are kind of like the season finale for AEW. Where
they are, because there's 4 years. They get 3 months to build up all the payoff storylines. Pay-per-view happens, debuts, whatever happened. Then
it's the reset.
Following Wednesday, hey, new storylines start.
New
3 months, pay-per-view.
And I love it. I love it. It's basically pay-per-views are the season finale. And they are the focal point of AEW right now, because I would say ever since the Revolution pay-per-view where that had the exploding barbed wire match, all these AEW pay-per-views have been on point. Okay.
Yeah. To the point where what burns me out about WWE a lot of the time is that because they have one every month, storylines don't have time to breathe. It's always one thing to the next thing to the next thing. We got 4 weeks to build this storyline up.
And sometimes even less than that, because sometimes those pay-per-views are so they're like spaced out 3 weeks in between each other. So yeah, nothing gets a chance to breathe, nothing gets a chance to develop, and they're just crapping out pay-per-views left and right without any bit of excitement, So and also they're kind of predictable because you know who's gonna win.
Remember, people, they're not called pay-per-views. They are premium live events.
Oh boy.
Shut up. Dude, the fact that they can't say, belt. They can't say wrestler, like all the like weird little rules, like just throw off like everything about that. It's like, no, I'm paying for a pay-per-view to watch somebody win the world title.
It's definitely like the Disney World / land of like professional wrestling. Where you go, there's all these rules you have to abide by as a performer, and then you leave and you take up acting, and you're like, wow, this is much easier.
My friend pointed it out once. It's sometimes it feels like WWE is the Warner Brothers of superhero movies.
Yeah,
where it's like they can sometimes hit, but then they most of the time miss, and it's all because of dumb things that a little bit more thought could have fixed. Like
a little bit more planning.
Yeah.
But let's get back to that tournament bracket.
All right, so that's the bracket that's happening tonight.
Yeah. I'm gonna say Darby, and I'm gonna say Dax.
Yeah, I could see that. I think Darby. I could see Jeff going over, if only to give the next person, whoever's on the other side, whoever's the next that he would face, like a better rub.
Yeah.
Because it would be a more of a marquee than just like going out in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
But they're doing a really good job, at least in the men's bracket, of making all of the wrestlers that are in there, like have almost an equal shot as each other. The Joker notwithstanding, whoever it may be. Yeah.
They all feel like big deals, which is something I want. I like some of the people in WWE. I do. They are great performers. I feel like they just, if not title shots or anything like that, just give them a little more time to show people what they can do. And it's like, but every time a lot of these feuds come around, like right after I think WrestleMania, when Reigns retained, like Shinsuke came out, and it felt like a big deal because we're like, we know what Shinsuke Nakamura can do when he wants to wrestle. And then it was like,
remember when he went over Cena?
And then he's attacked backstage, and it builds up a whole new feud. And it's like they completely forget about Shinsuke. And it's like, what was the point of this in storyline then? Like,
motherfuckers act like they forgot about Shin.
Yeah, and it's just like, but then you have all these things. It's like, hey, we need to build new stars. It's like, let Shinsuke go 3 weeks against Reigns, give him a scare. He's like, oh, I don't even know like how to. I'm used to like taking on people like less crazy than Shinsuke. And it's just like, then let them have the payoff where, it's win or lose. But it's like, it's always the same thing. It's somebody gets fed to, the champion very non-competitively. And I think even setting up like Drew McIntyre being his next big opponent, they lost clean to Reigns and the Usos on Raw. So it's like, okay, so Drew's not okay. So I don't believe that Drew can beat Reigns because he beat him like so effortlessly in this 6-man tag team.
Well, the tag team match, that's kind of where you like the difference of the suspension of disbelief comes in, because like it's a tag match. Like when it's 1-on-1, and they'll say this in the promos, well, when you get me 1-on-1 in the cage, you ain't going nowhere. So they always downplay the 6-man tags and the tag team matches as like, no. You won in a tag match. That doesn't count. You come at me 1-on-1 and see what happens.
Yeah, so
they like to do the 6-man. So again, the taste.
They just make tag team matches and 6-man tags just completely irrelevant for whatever reason. And like you need them to build up some kind of a story, but it just gets brushed off like 90% of the time, and I just don't like how they do that. They have to have some.
Looking at the Backlash result, it's
Yeah.
It's a clean victory of the Bloodline against Drew McIntyre and RK Bro. And it's just like, that doesn't help, because RK Bro's the tag champs right now, right?
Yeah, they're the Raw Tag Team Champions.
You embarrass your tag team. The main competitor for Reigns, I think, is the one that got pinned. So it's like...
And you expect people to believe that McIntyre can beat Reigns after they just get completely embarrassed by the Bloodline. I mean, what
I'm curious about is this tag team match, though, because there's been a lot of information coming out about it, where it was supposed to be a unification match for the tag team titles. Because I think the Usos are also tag team.
Yeah,
right?
they're the SmackDown. Yeah. So what I initially heard about that is that it was never planned to be unification. They just had it there for a bit, but they were always going to do the 6-man.
Yeah. Well, why even put that in there in the first place then?
Yeah, it's just like, if it's not the correct
it's a
one,
weird booking decision.
Then why do you put it there? Is it just to get people's eyes on it?
Are they just like trolling the audience?
Yeah. Well, it was because they unified one championship, and then they were like, "Hey, I'm horny for more titles. Bring in the other ones." And that's how the storyline went at first. And they were like, "Oh shit, another unification. That's hype." And I'll tell you, from personally, I would have been more hype if either the Usos or RK Bro were the unified tag champions. Yeah. But they're also not. They're not merging the brands. So they need to have some sort of champion on both shows.
I think that's the one thing that WWE can learn from AEW. Have Raw be your main show. Have SmackDown be 2 hours of just wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, quit trying to make it like side A, side B of your promotion, It's like, hey, SmackDown, we'll just throw up some matches, stuff that makes sense. Raw will be all the promos, the, story pushing forward. I mean, you can still do that on SmackDown, but I think that's what the show was originally, right? Like before the whole brand split, it was like they put on the show and it was just more wrestling then.
Well, it's because Heyman was in charge.
Yeah, and SmackDown was kind of more of a continuation of the stuff that happened on Raw back then. And then the brand split occurred, and that's when they started doing the separate storylines and the separate titles and all that. But SmackDown was kind of like a vehicle to continue Raw storylines.
And then they made it their own things, but that just took away the time to push the storylines again.
That just made them have to buy more writers.
Yeah, I did not know Freddie Prinze Jr. was a writer.
Yeah, he was a writer for a very long time.
And now he's like leaving to make his own promotion.
Yep.
Yeah. But
shit's wild.
Here it is, a month ago. If the undisputed WWE Universal Championship is the name of the unified titles, then the biggest title in wrestling is the Uwu Championship.
I hate that.
I remember seeing that on. That on Reddit, and I was like, I hate that a lot.
Oh, I hate. That so
I hate
much.
that so much.
But like, let's look at I was looking at like the Backlash results, and it was like 20 minutes for Cody and Seth, 8 minutes for the singles match, 15 minutes for the two next matches. Madcap Moss and Corbin was 8 minutes, and then another 20 minutes for that tag match.
We'll say
And-
that if you're gonna space out like, because there's only 6 matches on the card, it's still a 3-hour event. So I actually think that's like as good as you're gonna get as far as like the spacing in your matches, because you have the one hype match of Cody Seth. They open, so sure that kind of sucks, but whatever. And then you have your cooldown match, and then you have another match that's like 15 minutes, another 15, and then you have another cooldown match, and then you have the main event.
Yeah, and I'm looking at.
I think that's fine. I just think kind of some of the results were weird. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm looking at the tournament match for the Owen Hart Cup. You know, Bobby Fish, Jeff Hardy, 10 minutes. Darby and Swerve, 10 minutes. Dax and Cash, 15 minutes, but it was a pure masterclass of technical wrestling.
Yeah.
Tomohiro Ishii and Adam Cole, 11 minutes. Jungle Boy and Kyle O'Reilly, 13 minutes. I don't agree with Jungle Boy losing, unless they want to really emphasize, like, hey, you know, he's a tag team wrestler rather
Who
than
did
a
he
single.
face?
Kyle O'Reilly.
Oh yeah, no, that's a little awkward, because you have like your original. The only thing I would say as like a valid criticism for the tournament is that there is it's like Darby Allin, and that's it for like the AEW originals.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, they're committing to pushing Darby, which I can appreciate. Him, Jungle Boy, Sammy Guevara, and MJF came in. And it's like, honestly, you guys are the future of this company. Like, it's going to take some time, but we're going to build you. And they've really committed to Darby. They've really committed to Jungle Boy. You know, MJF is owning the top heel slot in that entire company. Yep. But then you got Sammy, who I think they've smartly started making more of like the cocky heel rather than trying to play him off as like a baby face now. And I think Sammy works best as a heel.
So. I read a story where like Tony Khan was like, hey, I didn't know they were gonna like act like that when them two got together. Now we got a course correct. So I mean, props to him for doing that and not just shoving the product down people's throats.
He listens. He notices the criticism. Like, he notices reactions. It's not like, oh, they don't understand that Sammy's a good guy. It's like, oh, they hate him? Let's make them hate him. So
make them hate him.
He's adjusting, and then Tony Khan is just good at adjusting to his crowd. That's what it is.
Funniest thing about this tournament bracket, though, Max Caster versus Samoa Joe. I believe that 2 minutes and 43 seconds was too good for Max. I believe he should have entered the ring, got muscle bustered, and then pinned. So
he did get muscle bustered. It was like,
absolute.
I feel like it went a minute longer than it had to, especially with the monster that Joe is. So.
I do like that time length in particular, because if you're gonna make it like a full on squash, you know, Max Caster has to come in, rap to the ring, and talk shit about Samoa Joe.
I love Max Caster. Like, he's definitely going to be like the lower mid card guy, but he comes out and does his job effortlessly and makes whoever's going up against him look like $1 million.
I love the Acclaimed.
That's why every time I see Fuego del Sol, I'm like, this man's going to lose, but I love this wrestler because he makes everybody look terrifying who beats him.
Yeah.
So,
like even the segment they did with the House of Black on last I keep almost saying Impact, last Dynamite. That was even that where he's just like fucking down on the ground, and then they just like toss him like a chump.
Yeah. So everybody is doing their jobs correctly in the best position, and it's people that make sense being in those positions, because you're going to have Max come out. He's going to insult the audience. He's going to insult the wrestler. Semi-competitive match, but he's just going to be laid out at the end of it all. So, but what else is on this card?
So tonight's card also has. I'm not talking about the segments, because whatever. Yeah. CM Punk versus John Silver.
I think this is where we see CM Punk go full heel before his
really?
Championship match.
Because
it's because he's kind of been the babyface. He beat MJF. You know, he's kind of been like, he's been a babyface for a lot of people, but now you're putting him against Hangman's friend before their title match. And I think just to kind of prove to Paige like how serious he is, he's going to go heel and just after winning probably just beat the shit out of John Silver.
I don't know if I agree with that. Just from the last promo from last week, it sounded like Adam Page was like, healing it up.
Yeah, he was getting a little more aggressive last week, and I kind of noticed that too. Which is why I like to see out of Hangman Page. I like the aggression we had coming out of him recently.
He was a heel when he was in Bullet Club in New Japan, right?
Yeah, he was.
Okay, so yeah, I think we're probably, if it's not CM Punk, it's definitely going to be, I think, Hangman is going to start turning to, that darker side again.
Yeah.
It's just weird. It's like, who are the Dark Order? Are they faces? Are they heels?
They just exist.
They just exist.
It would be interesting to see if, like, in this match, because Hangman's not on this card at all.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see if during this CM Punk John Silver match that Hangman comes in, buckshot CM Punk, gets the DQ, and John Silver's like, "Hey, what happened? I had this," and he just fucking beats the shit out of John Silver.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
That'd be really interesting.
Or it's like that happens, and we have stuff over the next 2 weeks. Seeing it organically grow.
But to your point, there's still plenty of time before the next pay-per-view.
Yeah, because this is the 11th. We have
there's still like
2
2
weeks.
2 more weeks.
2 weeks and 4 days.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Crucially, 4 more episodes of television.
Yeah.
And then we have Forbidden Door right behind that on June 26th. I'm almost curious how they're going to build that up as well.
It's the New Japan show, but we're getting that fucking banger match of Tomohiro, Juice Robinson, Moxley, and Ospreay in a fatal 4-way.
Right.
Hey, did they actually announce matches?
Yeah. Not for Hidden Door. Not for Forbidden Door. I think it's New Japan's like Windy City something.
Oh, okay.
It's their pay-per-view, but it's a fatal 4-way with Moxley, Ospreay, Robinson, and Tanahashi. That's the
okay. God, I love Tanahashi so much.
But it's for the title too, so it's like, oh shit.
Ooh.
I would love to see for Forbidden Door Okada versus Bryan Danielson.
I want to see.
Yeah.
You say that. I want to see Okada versus Punk.
That too.
Kenta has been calling out CM Punk.
GTS versus GTS.
Yeah.
Or G2S as they like to call it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I kind of want to see both of them just like have a whole segment of them just trying to knee each other in the face to knock each other out.
Right.
Yeah, they haven't announced anything.
I don't think they have.
I don't think they have yet.
They're also going like one pay-per-view at a time.
Yeah.
So they're letting, like, to your point, they're letting stuff grow organically before they get to the next thing.
If you announce something for Forbidden Door, the results of the pay-per-view can kind of be assumed. It's like, hey, Forbidden Door champion Adam Page, versus whoever. It's like, I guess that spoils the pay-per-view.
Yep.
So,
yeah, and that's kind of it too, right? They'll kind of putting the cart before the horse almost.
I do like he is taking it like pay-per-view by pay-per-view.
Yes.
Somebody though is doing a projection of like what they would like to see. Mm-hmm. And just the first match on this, Miro versus Jeff Cobb.
Oh God. I didn't even think about that one.
They just start fucking murdering each other.
Oh God.
Where I know Maro's been gone because he's filming a TV show. That's why he's been gone for so long. I do want him back as TNT title, though. That's the best run I think Miro's had in his career as God's favorite champion.
I'm going to put this out there once again because Cena did it both times. Remember when he went over Cena?
Yeah.
Yep. Remember when you drove a tank to the ring at WrestleMania, Miro?
That was hype as fuck.
That was fucking dope. It really was.
But yeah, I do like Miro. I miss Miro. He was injured for the longest time, but he recovered. But now to your point, he's doing a TV show. So, what TV show is he doing?
I don't know. I know he was filming like a pilot for something. The last promo we got from him is Hal losing because of whoever beat him, like kicked him in the balls. His promo was about how he hurt his balls and his wife. He couldn't pleasure his hot wife. And I was like, I love Miro because he mixes like comedy and seriousness so effortlessly.
I loved that promo, and I was like, "Aw, I miss him."
But
He's like,
what
"I
else do
gotta
we?
go away for a while to pleasure my hot wife." Like,
Yeah.
you go, man. I respect you. Your
So what
wife
else do
is
we?
hot. Go do the thing.
What else do we have on this card? So as we're
So the main
winding down
event,
on time here.
the main event tonight is the FTW Championship match between Ricky Starks and Jungle Boy, which I didn't know that was gonna happen. I thought that was
I didn't realize that was the
someone
main
else.
event.
It's at least it's what it looks like here. It might
That
not
means-
be the main event, but looks like it
I
is.
feel like something's going to happen if that is the main event. I don't think Swerve and Keith Lee are done with Team Taz.
No.
Well, that's the thing. I could have sworn it was like Swerve going against Ricky Starks for the belt, or did I miss
No,
that?
he
on
did that a few weeks
Rampage?
ago. He did that a few weeks
Okay.
ago.
Okay, cool. I was like, did I miss that? I did.
Yeah, so I don't think Swerve and Keith are done with Team Taz. But they're also building
okay.
Team Taz to be like the next title contenders from what it looks like.
Mhm.
So I think Ricky Starks beating Jungle Boy is kind of going to be that spark to be like, you know what? Let's contest for these titles. And then we're going to get, Powerhouse Hobbs versus Luchasaurus, which I cannot wait to see. So.
Oh yeah, that's big man match.
That man should not be able to move like he does. Luchasaurus is absurd.
I remember watching him in Lucha Underground when he was some other name, and I was just mad impressed with how well he can move. Like that dude can do everything.
Yeah.
Okay, he can fly, he can do power moves, he can do all kinds of shit. I love it.
He's the equivalent of AEW. He's AEW's version of the Cesaro hot tag.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every time Cesaro is tagged in, the man would lay out everybody in the ring. He would just be like nonstop for about a minute, just doing stuff. Luchasaurus is the same thing. Comes in, starts laying people out. It's usually the same moveset, but it pops the crowd.
Yeah, that's the point of the hot tag.
The Jurassic Express, I see why they kept the tag titles on them for as long as they have right now, because they really do put on some fun matches. Like all their pay-per-view matches on AEW have just been fun to watch.
I think it was smart for Young Bucks and Red Dragon to be in that triple threat for the titles, because they are just really waiting for Kenny to come back to pull the trigger on that Undisputed Elite versus the Elite feud that's been going on, or that's been like slowly building. It's just the longer it takes Kenny to come back, the more they kind of like put it in the background. But
also, like, by all means, Kenny, please take all the time you need, buddy.
I was watching stuff from fucking earlier in the decade that he was doing, and I'm like, yeah, no shit, this man had to take some time off. This man got Falcon Arrowed. This man got Falcon Arrowed onto the ground from the apron.
He was taking some crazy bumps in New Japan. All right, I mean crazy. And he was working 45-minute matches like almost every time he was on too. So yeah, he really needed some rest.
What I think, if he doesn't come back at Double or Nothing, I think Kenny might make his return at Forbidden Door, considering his histories with both companies.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Because I think the time frame that he's been out is the projected time frame that they were giving him for being out. So it would make sense. It's like this big New Japan, big AEW crossover. The one guy who was like the marquee name in both of them not being there, even if he doesn't wrestle, I think he's coming back.
So, I think he might appear. He might appear, maybe in a video segment or whatnot. So
I have something for you, gentlemen.
Sure.
What's that?
So just picture that they have like after Double or Nothing, they have like a trios tournament, a very quick trios tournament that culminates at Forbidden Door. And the finals is it's this some weirdo, maybe it's Jay White, who's been like with the definitely not Undisputed Era, or no, the other one, the Elite, and just been hanging out with them and getting them up into the thing. And then we get to the finals where it's the Elite and it's versus whoever else it might be. Jay White's coming out, lights go out on the ground, and it's like fucking Akuma from Street Fighter 2. It's Kenny Omega.
I do want to see, like, if we can get everybody from Bullet Club who's like hated each other just into a match together.
Yes. but I do like that he just pops in with a Satsui no Haru and just like Jay White hits the ground. It's just Kenny Omega like this behind with his back to everybody
with the red hair and everything.
Yeah.
Was it a casually Masetsu child?
Yeah, casually Masetsu child.
But
I had one more thing I wanted to bring up before we actually wrapped. And I don't want to necessarily end on Ricky Starks, but I want to ask, how do y'all feel about him, like comparisons of him to The Rock, like a young Rock, no relation to the NBC show.
I can see it, but I think he does enough to. I think because Rock didn't set that archetype. I would say like a lot of the Rock's stuff would have come from 80s wrestlers or 70s wrestlers to a degree. Because I mean, even Ric Flair got his stuff from Gorgeous George, I think was the guy's name, in like the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
I can see where he has the similar charisma to The Rock, and he has a similar look. But I think Ricky Starks is kind of different in a way. Like he projects a little bit more different than The Rock. He's not about heavy catchphrases. He's just kind of more blunt and straight to the point with his charisma, with his promos and charisma. And I just think that's a little bit. I like that a lot. From Ricky Starks. I think he could be a top talent, but he's got a little bit of ways to go.
The thing is, like, archetypes are always going to be there, but like
they work
that's
for
like
a reason.
That's like saying, does Ricky Stark compared to The Rock is like saying, did Max Caster steal John Cena's original gimmick? No, that's just who they are. I mean, nobody's like, is House of Black and Death Triangle, is Alex from, Death Triangle copying The Undertaker's gimmick, being, the shovel, the hooded kind of thing. It's like, no, it's all these just different archetypes. I mean, there are some that just personify them better.
I mean, lately I've been seeing a lot of comparisons between House of Black and the Judgment Day in WWE, but I just feel like although they're on similar lines, they're just a bit different. So yeah.
I did like the Edge promo where he's like, "Oh, only the Undertaker could do purple lights." Like, shut up. That was a great promo.
That got a good giggle out of me because I was like, he spoke with that country accent. He said, "Oh, why are y'all taking the Undertaker
called that shit out?"
Blasphemy.
WWE is doing what I think they're doing with Edge. They're finally getting on a page to understand what they need to do. They're going to use Edge to put these younger wrestlers over. They're not going to feed them to Edge, to ruin their, status, but just keep feeding these legends that keep coming back for no reason. Having Edge in their corner and letting them wrestle is just going to amplify their standings and things. Mm-hmm. Especially if the rumored fourth member is Ciampa, who comes in.
Oh, that'd be sick.
So you got amazing. Priest, Ciampa, and Rhea Ripley, who I'm waiting for them to take the second name from and just make her Ripley, because I know that's going to happen.
Eventually, yeah.
They're going to take away Damian Priest's full name and make him just like Priest or something. Like
Priest, Ripley, Ciampa.
But that's the thing. It's like, that's a weird creative decision because it makes them generic. Like, I feel like it just makes the wrestlers generic. They just give them a single name because you just don't want them to have two names because saying two names takes too long is the official reason.
I think there's that, but there's also like a branding thing where it's much easier to brand Ciampa versus Tommaso Ciampa.
That's a ring name.
No, I understand that. Like, the wrestling fan, understand that. But speaking from like a marketing point of view where, all the fucking suits are up there doing whatever they're doing and doing whatever market research they're doing, like, I think that's what it comes down to is like, how good of a brand can we get with Tommaso Ciampa or just Ciampa?
Yeah. Thank God Johnny left. Thank God Johnny left before they made his name Johnny.
Or just
just Johnny.
Just Johnny. I'm waiting for Liv Morgan to just become Liv. It's like all this dumb shit. It's like, it's just these weird creative decisions because I feel like just Vince is just losing his attention.
And all the random, heel turn, face turn character changes also. I'm still trying to figure all that out because everybody was miscast or something.
You said that, but we still don't know what the alignment of the Dark Order is.
Yeah.
And
So
I think they're also doing that
it
with
happens in both promotions.
just the final statement for that. I think they're also doing that with Lacey Evans. I think they intended for her to come back as a babyface, really building on her like Marine background and all that. But Corey Graves on commentary was like putting her over, like, you have to respect her, and like making it sound like a very heel kind of like persona. So it's just like, are we supposed to be cheering or hating? Like,
yeah.
There's like this weird disconnect between, I guess, what the writers want to put over and what the announcers are told to say.
It's because some corporate exec was like, if you tell them, they're just gonna do it because they're fucking lapdogs, and the average wrestling fan's gonna be, you know what? No, we're actually still counterculture after like 40 years. Fuck you. We're gonna boo them now.
And it's also like NXT people. It's like Dexter Loomis and Paris Peralti, I think is her name. They were like in the middle of a storyline when they got released. Yeah. But the two people that they were teaming with in storyline are still in the company.
What does NXT become? I'm still trying to figure out exactly what they are doing with NXT and what direction they're trying to go with it, because I don't get it.
Here's the thing about NXT. When NXT was the original product that Triple H had, they had a bunch of indie talent they could pull from. AEW wasn't a thing yet. They could just pull Samoa Joe, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, whoever they wanted. But now that AEW is a thing and they're taking all the indie talent because nobody wants to work for WWE, it's fucking grueling. But it was the only show in town.
Yeah,
but now that Triple H is out of the picture, all these guys gotten released. All these guys have like requested their release, however it may go. Now that all of that has happened and AEW now exists, now that there's another game in town, they can go there instead of just like being in WWE. Because if you notice, very few of them actually went up past NXT. I feel like that was intentional on their part because they're like, no, we want to stay here. We want to make this as good as we can get it.
Well, a lot of the guys they had in NXT, once they made the main roster, they started to change them subtly. Okay, like Karrion Kross and Keith Lee were the two biggest ones. Like they just started
Kross,
to change
a Mad Max villain.
Like they made him Lord Humongous for whatever reason. I have no idea why. The mask and everything.
Marketing.
Yeah, marketing. let's make a dude who had an interesting
Let's sell
gimmick,
some masks.
a good presentation. Let's make him Lord Humongous.
Plus, he never his wife never showed up either, and that was kind of fucked up.
Yeah, it really was.
The two things that I always hear from people who talk about wrestling. Wrestling is at its best when the industry is healthy, when there's a lot of places to go to, and those promotions are the best when a lot of the time when their mid card outclass their top card. And if you look at the mid cards of
quality,
if you look at all the promotions right now in the US, or at least the three big ones, Impact, AEW, WWE, the mid card in AEW is stacked.
It's solid.
And I mean, these are guys that can eventually get their title shots, but as long as they're on the mid card together, they're going to put together banger matches. And you think of the mid card of WWE, you got the Miz, you got Shinsuke, Corbin, Ali. I mean, they're probably like lower towards the mid card, but like their mid card can be good. They just keep putting them in these dumb feuds with each other.
I like Ali and the Miz right now.
Ali and the Miz has the potential to be a great feud because they're really building on. It's like, hey, you wanted to leave, and all this other stuff. Yeah. So it's like they have a grounded thing to work on. But aside from that, it's like, aside from Ali and Miz and Moss and Corbin, I can't think of any other mid-card feuds in WWE right now. Like right off the top of my head. But,
I mean, if you talk about all the stuff with Arcade Bro, but they have the tag titles,
but they're in the top of the card. Yeah, they're like up the top of the card.
Top of the card, but like I can't really think of anything because they don't really put much effort into their mid card like they used.
But then we go to AEW and it's like that Triangle House of Black, Dax Harwood, any of the tag teams. anything that Adam Cole is involved in. You have Darby, like the
CM
feud
Punk.
with the Hardys and Andrade being like one of the marquee like mid card feuds.
AFO.
Yeah, and it's just like you have all these groups. Yeah, people are getting tired of like the groups, but this is how you get a lot of your people on TV to be recognized.
That's
And
how
it
you
makes
keep your
sense to
product
it
fresh.
makes sense to
too.
put them in alliances that make sense.
And it keeps AEW Dynamite fresh because you can rotate these things out every single week, and it doesn't feel
Yeah.
like the same episode. You know,
You can say best friends versus AFO, and it could be like 16 different match combinations because there's so many people between each groups.
they just
So
have
it does
a
keep the
wealth of
feuds
talent.
fresh.
Yep.
That's what I'll have to say. I think a lot of companies need to kind of reassess what their mid card is. They need to reassess the talent that they have and be like, all right, what are strengths? What are weaknesses? You know, what can we do to capitalize on the people that we have in a way that, you know, respects them?
Mm-hmm.
So right now, the industry is great. The industry is healthy. It's actually probably the most healthy it's been since 2000.
I think my favorite thing about the current industry is something that AEW is doing is whenever somebody is a champion from another promotion or from crucially from ROH, all the ROH champions are in AEW at one point or another. My favorite thing is that they say, "Oh yeah, this is the champion from this promotion or the champion from this promotion," and so and so. Like FTR is the as far as I know still the AAA tag team champions.
They are still AAA, and I think they are still Ring of Honor, right? Or did they lose that to Young Bucks? I can't remember.
I do
What's
not
that?
know.
Are
FTR?
FTR still Ring of Honor tag champions?
Yeah, it's still the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I mean,
they
every
come
week
out with
they
the
have
belts.
the belts.
They advertise
Like,
them. Yeah.
It's Tony Khan saying other companies exist.
Yes.
And we are going to respect those companies. It's not just respecting the wrestlers, it's extending a hand to another company saying, we see you as competition, but we would also like to work with you. We feel like this could be a mutually beneficial relationship, unless you're Impact, and then Big Cass shows up and gets destroyed by a single power bomb from Wardlow. But Wardlow's over. So
I was gonna say there's a difference between it because I think it would have been even more damning if Morrissey got hit with like the actual full-on symphony
that was
versus just the one.
That was a report that came out too. I think it was saying like, hey,
It was a political move.
You can beat him, just don't bury him.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, don't, we don't want you to hit the finisher and, all that and have it like that. But I also feel like the one power bomb's probably a little disrespectful also. I feel like it sells.
It was very lose. It was very lose given, the situation that
they had to put
Wardlow.
They had to put Wardlow over.
Yes.
I just feel like maybe Morrissey could have been the first one to kick out of a symphony and maybe one extra power bomb was needed to put him away. Would have been the better choice. But then it's also like, okay, so against certain people, this isn't a guaranteed win from the Powerbomb Symphony. Like, it damages Wardlow a little bit in that aspect too.
Especially with an MJF match potentially on the horizon.
Yeah. I do like how Wardlow's matches have been big meaty men slapping big meaty men. Him and Lance Archer, him and Big Cass.
But other than the Big Cass match, though, ultimately I feel like they've done a tremendous job building Wardlow as a top talent.
Wardlow is the most organically homegrown wrestler I think I've seen.
Like the way they built him up, is how you properly build a top face in a wrestling company, which is what WWE used to do a long time ago, and I wish they would kind of go back to doing something like that. Just building a top talent. Like I wish they would do that with like Lashley. But I mean, even though they're kind of doing it with Omos, but it's not. It's a little convoluted.
A problem they're having is that they want it's the same problem that is in like the movie industry, right? They don't want to take a risk on something new. They wanna use what they have and keep building that up, and it shoots them in the foot when something like happens, like John Cena goes into movies now, or The Rock leaves, Stone Cold leaves. And then they're stuck for 10 years.
Well, let me pose this question then, okay?
Yeah.
Because I read a report somewhere that Roman Reigns is about to take the summer off.
Yeah.
Okay. For about 10 weeks. What does WWE look like in its current state without Roman Reigns as their top guy?
There's no other top babyface because the only person who could have been a top babyface lost clean at Backlash
Yeah.
to
So
Roman Reigns.
so you imagine this, Reigns being off television for 10 weeks. Okay, what does that do for WWE in the long term?
From what I understand, the report was actually like he's taking off house shows. He's not taking off the television or
Okay.
the premium live events. He's taking off house shows. So he's not doing those anymore.
So he's just
Not,
gonna do
not,
the TV.
yeah, he's just gonna do TV.
But then
Well,
what does
that's
that do
good
to your
because
what does that do to your house show attendance at that
Yeah.
point? If people know it's like we're not going to, if Reigns is like this popular figure to everybody and he's just not going to be there,
That's true.
like
So I don't know how you come to grips with that, but I mean that's the contract he signed. So like, I mean,
yeah.
what are you gonna do?
maybe call John Cena. I don't know. Maybe have another summer of Cena going.
They'll, so I think what they'll do is what I think they'll actually do is slowly but surely build up the next babyface in the house shows and be like, oh, this guy gets a reaction, and just like see if it happens consistently. And
Yeah.
then they test it on Raw, and then they test it on a premium live event, and then they'll go from there.
I just can't wait to see Cody Rhodes be the one to take the belt off Reigns because I know that
That's
that's
what-
probably the contract
it's
that he
gonna happen.
signed.
And
Like,
that was my next point because one of the like on the at least on the Raw side, either Cody or Roman. I mean, Cody or Bobby Lashley have to beat Roman. Okay, Cody beating Roman establishes him as the top face in the company, and
For sure.
and already it feels like Cody Rhodes is the biggest thing on Raw as it is.
he's the biggest
So,
wrestler they
why not?
have right now.
Yeah, so why not? Like seriously,
Former AEW executive, of course he's the biggest wrestler they have right now.
But
because he feels fresh and exciting. So why not put the belt on Cody?
yeah, it's
I
just
thought
like
it was kind of shitty that he went after the US title.
they're putting him in the U.S. title. He's probably getting Rollins Rhodes 3 at Hell in a Cell. So
Yeah.
Yes.
it's
Heck in a
definitely
deck.
going to be a long run to get him to the world title. But like, if I was a betting man, I'd put money that was in the contract. It's like you will let me dethrone Reigns. So
By the end of the I will even say by the end of
by
the
the
year.
end of the year, you're not going to wait 2
For
years to
sure.
put the belt on Rhodes. You're going to put it on him in a way that makes sense where he's still red hot. Like, I think once he beats Rollins, they're going to use Rollins and Reigns' history to get Cody against Reigns.
And that's the thing; they have to do it while it's hot because eventually, if they keep booking, if they just kind of keep, dragging out the booking with Cody, it's gonna cool off, and people are gonna stop caring. So they got to do this like within the next couple of months.
I'm predicting by SummerSlam. By
Definitely.
SummerSlam,
That'd be
they'll
perfect.
at least plant the seeds, if not do it right then and there.
I think Cody would want to take it off of him though as a WrestleMania moment. So I think if we get a feud, it's going to be at least like a 6-month feud between them until the next WrestleMania comes around.
Yeah.
But I guess that's good enough for today, guys. Unless we have
that was
anything
a
else.
healthy discussion.
It's mostly AEW talk, but it's like there's just not a lot to talk about WWE right now. It's kind of in a weird like limbo state of excitement.
Because the last time we talked about it, it was like shortly after WrestleMania. We could talk about WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But WWE does the thing where like, much like we were describing with AEW, they have their big reset, but they only have one reset, and it's after WrestleMania.
Yeah,
And
their big reset button is after the biggest event when AEW is like 3 months.
Every like 3 months, yeah.
3 months.
Yeah, it's if you keep your computer on for too long, the RAM all gets eaten up. And when it's all eaten up, your computer sucks. So you got to restart your computer occasionally so that it can refresh itself and process at optimum speeds.
It's also that the feuds are short enough to not get to you. Feuds will go for 3 months, pay off at the big event, and then a new feud will start. You'll never get tired of it. You'll never get to the point it's like, oh god, another one.
Yeah.
Like they're doing this match for the 50th time on Raw this week. It's like, yeah. What I love about AEW.
So it's definitely fun. I'm not against WWE. I'm going to Raw on Monday with a friend of mine.
So am I.
So we'll be
Oh,
going to house shows. I'm waiting for AEW to come back to Norfolk. I missed the last time they were here. So
it was so fun. I got a picture with Orange Cassidy. It was amazing.
I have big city privilege where both promotions come to my town frequently. I live in San Antonio, so they're always here. They're just like, I think WWE shows up at least 3 times a year. AEW is going to show up yet again in July, I think.
I mean, Thunder Rosa won the belt in San Antonio, her hometown.
Yeah,
Her
so
hometown.
that's another thing.
I didn't get to go. I'm so
Respect
sad.
your wrestlers. They're hyped when it's their hometown show. Don't have them lose. Like,
They
Don't
perform a
have
lot
them
better.
lose. Yeah, it's wild how
It's-
that works.
it's amazing how like listening to fans leads to a better perspective from fans.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I guess that will conclude this conversation.
Yeah,
X, I'd love to get you back for more wrestling episodes, maybe even like a side series each week, talking
Sure,
about
I'd be down for it.
talking about the industry on a weekly basis. There's a
Yeah.
lot of content,
cool.
so
Yeah, there is.
There's a lot to
But,
cover.
years upon years of wrestling to look at.
I definitely want to.
Might dive into
Talk more
control your
about it,
narrative at
so.
some point.
Oh,
God.
no, I am not. I'll be out of that episode. You guys can do that on your own.
But,
Fuck those guys.
No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah,
You can say I said that, Adam. Sure, fuck you.
But yeah, it was great having you, X, and
Yeah,
hope
no problem.
everybody enjoyed
Glad
this
to be here,
episode.
man.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you guys have any thoughts about wrestling, any of the people that we talked about, any of the shows we talked about, if you want to say fuck you, AEW sucks, and I'm a WWE fanboy,
Fair
or
enough.
vice versa, please let us
Fair
know
enough.
in the comments so I can mock you. But
I will mock you regardless of what promotion you say is the better promotion.
the biggest swerve is waiting for it's like both those companies suck. I'm an Impact fanboy. So
I'll be like, you know what?
I
Fair
still
enough.
love both. Don't get me wrong. I still love WWE. I love AEW.
I
just
find
love pro
more
wrestling in general. I just think
find
they need
more
more promotion to help
enjoyment.
it grow.
I find
Yeah.
more enjoyment watching AEW. I don't feel bored at points watching AEW wrestling. Like I understand that they're
Mhm.
different, but WWE just has these segments where I'm like, let me just get back to
Get it
the
over
fucking
with.
wrestling. Like
Mhm.
The WWE is like that one real cool uncle you had when you were growing up. Always
And
gave
now-
you like a quarter or allowance.
and now it's just a
then
drunken mess.
became an alcoholic. You took the words right out of my mouth. Just turned to alcoholism out of nowhere. You stopped seeing them for like a few years, and then they turned to alcoholism, and you're coming back like, hey man, what happened? I don't know. I just
Yeah,
my
talk with
wife
Jim
left
Beam again,
me.
didn't you?
The fact that what gets me is the fact that that Impact has survived as long as it has, like just being like the
Despite
weird
itself,
like
really.
off
20 years.
20 years,
This
and
is
it's like
its
despite
20th year.
itself, despite all the Dixie Carter era stuff, despite like losing a bunch of
Despite
talent, it's just like
Hogan and Bischoff. Like,
it's just a sign. It's
yeah.
like you guys are still here. Like
Despite Vince Russo,
It's lasted longer than
God.
WCW.
yeah,
it has.
Think about that.
yeah. So
Uh,
what a wonderful industry. But
Jeez.
we're gonna finish up. Deca has stuff to do after this,
Yeah.
so we're gonna be finishing up here. As always, guys, share it, comment it, like it, whatever. We love seeing you guys in the comments down below the video.
hell yeah.
X, it was great having you here. I'll definitely love to have you back.
Yeah.
More
Nice
It was
wrestling
great.
talk.
That was great being here, man.
And hopefully, get some new shows here on the channel. Maybe a wrestling show. But we'll see. We'll see
Maybe.
what happens over the next few months. But as always, I'm SharkyHat, joined by Decavolty and Xavier, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
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 everybody.